Hi, I'm Nikki from Find Me Crafting. Each month, I'm releasing another pattern for the Cuddle Buddies baby blanket. It's called the Cuddle Buddies Blanket because it has adorable little animals peeking out like this one. This is this month's. It's a cute little teddy bear. This is the brown bear. I have two other variations for you. You can also use the same pattern to make a polar bear, and this one is fuzzy. Or you can also make it into a black bear. I'll give you all the tips and tricks to make each one of them. Come on, I'll show you how. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any new patterns or projects. Let's start by talking about yarn choices. If you want to make this brown bear, you're going to want a medium weight size 4 yarn. I used Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in Latte, Ivory, a really small amount of black just for the eyes, nose, and the details, and a tiny little scrap of white just to make the eye sparkles. If you want to make the fuzzy polar bear, the yarn I used for this was Bernat Pipsqueak in white, Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in ivory. Once again, a small amount of black and white just for the nose, the eyes, and the eye sparkles. And if you want to make a bow in this color, this is Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in pink. If you wanted to make this hat, I will have all the details down in the description box. The hat itself is a free pattern. I'll put that link down there. I made the hat out of Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in sea blue. I made the pom-pom and I used a clover pom-pom maker. That link will be in the description box as well. And I just held together Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in white, pink, sea blue, and black to make the pom-pom itself. If you want to make the black bear, which is what I'm demonstrating in this video, you would need Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in black, toasted almond, a little bit of white just for the eye sparkles and the extra white around the eyes. And I did use I Love This yarn in gray beard for the claws. No matter which bear you're making, you're probably going to want to start by making the head. That is our base, and a lot of things get attached to it. The pattern is the same no matter which of the bears you're making, and it is the same pattern as the head for the bunny that I did last month. So I'm going to put a link up here in the corner and also down in the description box for a tutorial to walk you through step by step how to make this head. And once you've done the head, you can move on to making the muzzle, which is the same pattern as the head, but instead of doing 6 rows, you stop after the 3rd row. So you can watch the same video, just stop after row 3, and you'll have your muzzle done as well. And once you've made your head and your muzzle, you can move on to making the paws, because believe it or not, this is the same pattern. It is the same pattern as these two, but you're going to stop after you finish row 2. So you do need to make 2 paws, but it's all the same circle pattern. So what I want to walk you through right now is how to make the ears. Now, if you're making a black bear like I am, you would make them out of black yarn. But as you can tell from this video, you can't actually see very well because black is a really hard yarn to see. So I'm going to demonstrate how to make the ears with the toasted almond yarn. That's the same color I've used for the muzzle, but this is just for demonstration purposes so that you can see it. I am going to be using a G 4mm hook, and I'm going to start with a magic circle or a magic ring, whatever you want to call it. So I've wrapped it around my fingers, move my fingers out of the way. I'm going to grab my yarn up just like this, and I'm going to do 1 chain just to hold it in place. Now, if you have any problems with magic rings or magic circles, I'm going to put a link up here that'll walk you through a little bit slower how to do a magic ring. So I'm going to do 4 single crochets into this magic ring, magic loop, magic circle, all the same thing, different names. So I'm going to go underneath, I'm going to pull up a loop, I have 2 on, yarn over and pull through. That's 1 single crochet. I need to do 3 more. So underneath, pull up a loop, yarn over, there's 2, and here's 3, underneath, yarn over, and there's 4. So what we want to do at this point is tighten the circle. So I'm going to grab my starting end over here, and I'm going to, I like to hold the single crochets flat as I pull it closed. Otherwise, sometimes they get twisted and turned inside out. So if you hold them flat, they'll stay in place. and I'm going to tighten that all the way up. I'm going to slip stitch under the first single crochet that I did. So go under both loops, yarn over, whoops, don't drop your yarn. Yep, go under both loops, pull up a loop, and I'm going to pull it through the loop that's already on my hook. Now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm ready for row 2. I'm going to do 2 single crochets into each of my stitches. I'm going to start in the same stitch I just slip stitched to. I'm going to go underneath, pull up a loop. Sometimes you have to wiggle these because they are tight. So I have 2 loops on. I'm going to yarn over, pull through. Now in this same stitch, I'm going to do one more just like that, one more single crochet. So there's 2 loops on, yarn over, pull through. So now I'm going to do 2 more single crochets into each of my stitches. So that was 2 there. I'm going to go 2 more here. And 2 more in this one. That'll bring me to 6 single crochets so far. And then I'm going to do 2 more under this last single crochet. This looks like another stitch. We do not want to work into that one. We just want 8 single crochets, and we're going to slip stitch under the first one. Because we only did 4 single crochets into our original magic circle, this is going to start to curl upward. We want that. That is the goal. So don't be alarmed that it is not laying flat. We don't want it to lay flat. You're going to chain 1, and now we're ready for row 3. In this row, we're going to do 2 single crochets under the first stitch, just like we did in the last round. And now in the next one, we're just going to do 1. And then we're going to repeat. So now I have 2 in this stitch and 1 in the next. We're going to repeat that process around the circle until we have 12 single crochets. Once you're back to the start, we want to slip stitch under that first single crochet. Ooh, there we go. And then chain 1. See how it's curling? That's the goal. You can flatten it out like this, but in the end, we want it to be curled. Now we have 1 row left. In row 4, we just want to do 1 single crochet into each of those 12 stitches. So starting in the same one that you just slip stitched to, do a single crochet there, and just 1 in each stitch all the way around for a total of 12 single crochets. When you get back to the start, you are going to have this one stitch that you're going to want to work into. Fight the urge. Don't do it. We're just going to do another slip stitch under our first single crochet, and that'll close your circle and make it curl even more. And that's your ear. At this point, you can cut your yarn, finish off by pulling it through, and you want to leave yourself a longer tail because we will use that later to attach the ear to the blanket. And you have 1 ear done. You do have to repeat that process for the second ear, and you can weave in the starting end so that it's out of your way. I want to show you how to make the nose, which for all of my bears is black, but if I try to make it in the black right now, you won't be able to see it. There is 0 point in me doing a tutorial because it will be impossible to see. So I'm going to use toasted almond just so that you can actually see the nose. You will need a B 2.25 millimeter hook. So we're going to start with a slip knot and just tighten that up. Once you get it ready, we want to chain 2. So 1 and 2. Now in this first row, we're going to be working in the second chain from the hook. So if our hook goes in this loop here, here's the first chain by the hook, here's the second chain away from the hook. That's what we're going to begin working in. And we're going to do 2 single crochets into that chain. So go down, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull. That's 1 single crochet. And now we're going to go down into the same chain and do 1 more just like that. Now we're going to, well, make sure we didn't split our yarn. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work because that's 1 tiny little row. Now going back for our second row, we want to do 2 single crochets under this one and 2 under this one. So you can have a total of 4 for this row. We're going to start and do a single crochet under the first stitch, and in the same stitch do one more just like that. And now in the next stitch we're going to do 2 more single crochets. And that's our tiny little nose. So now you just want to cut yourself a fairly long tail so that you can use it to attach the nose to the muzzle and pull that through as you finish off. And this is ready to go. I'm going to show you how to make a bow. It can be used as a little bow tie or a hair bow. Either would be adorable. I am using Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn in pink, and I'm back to a G 4mm hook. We start by chaining 5. So I'm going to do a slip knot and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once again, beginning in that second chain from the hook, we're going to do 1 single crochet into that one, and now a single crochet into each of the other chains. So that'll be a total of 4 single crochets. I just did 1. Here's number 2, 3, I'll get some more yarn, and 4. So that's our first row. I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. So going back in this row, I'm going to do a single crochet into each of those stitches. So 4 more single crochets. Here's my first and my second, my third, and my fourth. I'm going to chain 1, and now I'm going to turn and I'm ready for row 3. You can see your rows if you count. Here's row 1 right here. Here's row 2. We want 4 total rows, and each row will have 4 single crochets in it. So with 4 rows, it's going to look like this little square. So now what we want to do is create a border around the outside of this little square. It helps to have a stitch marker for this part. So in that same stitch that we just put our last single crochet in, I'm going to put 1 more single crochet. That's a corner, and in each of the corners we want to do 2 single crochets. So that's our first one. I'm going to mark that with a stitch marker because toward the end it all starts to look the same. So now I've turned my work and I'm going to work down this next side, and I want to do 3 more single crochets. So 1, 2, and here in this corner over here, I'm going to work a third. Because it's a corner, we want to work a second single crochet in that same stitch. And now we're turning and we're working along this side. So we're going to do 3 more single crochets on that side. So 1, 2, and 3. Once again, we're in the corner, so we're going to do a second single crochet in that same corner. Now we've turned again. We're on this side. We're going to do 3 more single crochets down this side. 1, 2, and 3. And once again in the corner, we want to do an extra single crochet. We're going to do 4 more single crochets. And now we're back to where we started. So we're going to slip stitch under that first stitch, the one that we have marked. And now we can cut our yarn. We want to leave ourselves a bit of a tail, 10 to 12 inches. Pull it through to finish off. Now we have this nifty little square. Our next step is to weave in this starting end just so it's out of our way. And next we want to take our long tail that we left ourselves and we want to weave the end in till we're in the center of the square. That's when we can work with it for the next step. When you have it to the center, we're going to fold the bow. This is my back side where I have my tail. So we flip it over to the front side. We want to fold it in half and then bring the edges together. So fold in half and pinch the edges. And you can hold with one hand, get it all pinched, and then use your tail and wrap it around the center 3 to 5 times. I find works pretty well. And then if you open up your ends, you have a cute little bow. To secure this end that you just wrapped around, I go back under the wrapped area with my needle and pull it through, and that knots it. So now your bow is ready to go, and you can use your tail to attach it wherever you want on the bear. So next up, the last thing you should have to make are the eyes, which you can't really see very well because they're black on black. So I'm gonna put a link up here for a step-by-step tutorial for how to make these eyes. But for the black bear, I do like to add this outside white edge just so you can actually see the eyes. It adds a little bit of cuteness. You can add it to any of the animal eyes. They're all exactly the same. But I want to show you how to do this. Now, in attaching the eyes, I do attach the muzzle first, and then I attach the eyes, just obviously so you know where they're going to go, where their placement should be. So let me show you how to add just this outside edge of white. You need a length of white yarn, really about 10 to 12 inches, and that's being generous. You probably don't even need that much. And then if you thread it onto your yarn needle, you're ready to go. So you can start at the top or the bottom. I tend to start at the top, and right above the eye, right in the center at the top of the eye, I'm going to come up through the back, and you want to pull that through, but you want to leave a length on the back to knot this when you're done. So I'm going to leave this hanging here, and now I'm going to come down across the eye, and I want to go down. I'm going to angle my needle so it's just under the eye, under where I've attached the eye, and a little bit to the outside. So on this eye that's on the right, I'm going to go just kind of half a stitch over to the right and go down. If you're working on the left eye, you want to do a half a stitch this way over here toward the left. So I'm going to angle it under the eye and just a little to the right. Hold your tail on the back so you don't pull it through, and you're going to pull that through to the back. You don't want it to be too tight, but you want to pull it through to the back. And now with your yarn needle or just your fingers, you're just going to flip it over to the right and then tighten just a little bit with your ends. You don't want to tighten too much because it'll suck that yarn just completely under there. That's really all you have to do to add it. And now I'm just going to knot my ends here on the back. Once again, being careful not to tighten too much because it will pull the yarn where you don't want it to go. I'm going to double check on the front. Yep, I still like how it looks. And you can just trim your ends, and you can leave them. You don't have to tuck these in, just kind of leave them hanging because you're going to sew this onto your blanket or your hat or wherever you're putting it, and you'll never see the ends. So I'm going to show you how I assemble all of the bear's pieces. So I attach the muzzle to the head, and I try to put that almost all the way down to the bottom of the face. Then I attach the eyes, and now I'm going to attach the nose. I like to do all of this attaching before I attach it to the blanket itself. You're going to see less of the yarn pieces that you're using for attaching on the back of your blanket. So you want to attach everything you can before you get to the blanket. So decide where you're going to be putting your nose. I like to put mine almost all the way at the top of the muzzle and evenly between the eyes. So I have my yarn tail threaded onto my yarn needle, and I am just going to sew this on. So through the layers, I'm gonna pull it to the back and just go around while holding it with my left. I'm gonna go around and stitch it on with my right. And actually, it's easier if you attach the nose to the muzzle before you attach the muzzle to the face, just because you have less layers to go through, but either way works. Once you have your nose attached, don't cut your yarn, leave that yarn till there. You can go right from there into embroidering on your mouth. I'm gonna start right below the nose. I'm gonna come up through the back. And now I'm gonna go down to about, I wanna put my smile right here before the end of this last row. And I'm gonna go down to the back, and then you have part of the mouth. You can leave it like that if you like. That looks really cute like that. I like to add a smile. I like them to be happy. So I'm gonna come up over here on the right, couple stitches over. And I'm working right here at the bottom of this last row. And I'm going to go back down through the same hole that I put the end of my line there. There's one side of the smile, and I'm just going to try to match it up over on the left. So I'm going to come up on the left at about the same spot as I did on the right and go back down through that same hole in the middle. And there's my smile. Now you can knot this yarn and weave in your end. I'd like to show you how I add the little claws onto the paws. So I've cut myself a length of yarn. It's about 10 to 12 inches. Once again, that's probably being generous. I like being generous with my yarn. I hate having short ends. So I'm going to thread my gray beard yarn onto my yarn needle. This is my paw. It doesn't really matter if it's the top or the bottom. They're the same all the way around. I guess I'll put it at the bottom just because that's where I did my other one. I like to start in the center, and I go up kind of through the middle of my paw. I'm going to leave a tail on the back of the paw so that I can tie a knot. And then I'm going to come all the way to the edge of the paw and go back down to the other side. And that's one claw. Now I'm just going to shift over here to the right. Yep, I like it there. I'm going to go up through the back. And once again, all the way to the edge. I am going to go back down to the other side. And I'm going to go back. And now I'm going to move over to the left. That does mean some of your yarns are crossing on the back, but you're attaching this to something else. So it's going to hold it all down. You're never going to see it. Let me come up to the back. And once again, down to the edge of your paw for the third claw. And obviously, if you don't like how these are looking, you can pull them out, start them over. I usually have to do that when I'm embroidering details. And then you just want to knot this on the back, making sure not to pull too tight because it will pull your stitches tight on the front, and you're done. You just need to trim your ends. Now I'm ready to attach my bear to my blanket. This is my tiny little blanket. Here's my bunny from last month. Isn't he cute? I like to lay everything out, make sure I like the placement before I start really putting anything down. I want my bear's paws to overlap his face and the white border of my blanket. So I'm gonna have his little paws just like this and his ears like this. I'm gonna start by attaching the head. And so I have my yarn tail that I left when I finished off. And I'm gonna hold him with my left hand and work with my right. So I'm gonna move over a stitch and go down through the head and through the blanket. Now I'm gonna move over a stitch and come up from the back to the front through the blanket and the head and pull it through. Move over a stitch and repeat that process until I've sewn on the whole head. You would sew the paws on the same way you just did the head. Get them where you think they're cute, position them right, and just stitch through them in the same manner. When attaching the ears, I wanted to show you how I attach them so that you still have this cute little raised up edge. So it's going to be hard to see on the black. I just wanted to show you with the brown bear. When you stitch this on, you're just going to place all your stitches right here at the flat portion of the ear. So don't put anything through this curled up edge, but do all of your stitches right in here. If you want to add this little bit of rosy glow to the cheeks of the bear, I just used blush. Just any blush will do. This is kind of a reddish blush. This is Milani brand. It really doesn't matter which one you use. I just use a small brush. You get a little bit of blush on there and rub it on the cheeks. Voila. And if you wanted to add the bow, you're just going to want to use your long tail to stitch it, maybe either up by the ear, or you can put it down here between the paws if you wanted a little bow tie. Whether you're attaching a bear to a blanket, a hat, or something else, I hope you enjoy making one of these cute little teddy bears. Happy crafting!